So what's this? This is an Avro Lancaster. Now, as you can see, it's a 4-engined aeroplane. It actually started its life as a twin-engined aeroplane, or more accurately, a 4-engined aeroplane which looked like a twin-engined aeroplane. The Manchester was a particularly unsuccessful aeroplane, not because of the design of the aeroplane, but because of the engines that powered it. It was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Vulture engines. And what a Vulture engine was 2 engines joined together. I don't think it ever turned out to be successful trying to do that sort of thing. So what happened was that the Manchester entered service before the development work on the engines had been completed. And they discovered that these engines had an annoying tendency to overheat. Sometimes they would overheat so much that the engine would burst into flames. On a twin-engine aeroplane, that's not really very good news. It's not very good news at any time, really, but particularly on a twin-engine aeroplane. So, Roy Chadwick, who was a man who had designed the Manchester, he had foreseen this problem coming. So he had been working on a solution. The solution that he came up with was to keep the fuselage of the Manchester, keep the wings, keep the tailplane, but just increase the span of both of those. So on the wings he's got some more room. So he stuck on 2 extra engines, and not Vultures, but Rolls-Royce Merlins. And then a legend in the history of the RAF was born, because this was the most successful of the 4-engine bombers that we had in service during the war. Lancasters accounted for 16% of the total strength of bomber aircraft that we sent out to Germany during the war, and they dropped 60% of the total tonnage of bombers. That is how successful an aeroplane it was. However, I built around about 7,300 of these aeroplanes. 40% of them were lost in operations. The average flying life of a Lancaster during the war was 40 hours. That was around about 5 missions. The bomber crews that flew these aeroplanes, their average age was 22. They had to fly a tour of 30 operations. They had a 1 in 3 chance of surviving. Now, these men are all extremely brave, not just because of what they did, but because they were, each and every one of them, a volunteer. Nobody made them fly. They all volunteered for service in Bomber Command. Bomber Command during the war had a total strength of 125,000 men. Of that total, 55,573 of them lost their lives. There were about another 11,000 or so that were taken prisoner, a large number wounded, so the casualty rate was over 50%. That's why this aeroplane flies, to remember those men of Bomber Command who gave their lives during the war. So, it's a big aeroplane, and I'll tell you about the crew in a minute. But first of all, a little bit about the paintwork that's carried up there on the nose. This represents the markings that were carried on the aircraft of number 460 squadron, which was a squadron in the Royal Australian Air Force that was flying out of RAF Binbrook up in the Lincolnshire Wolds, and it was flown actually by a mixed crew which consisted of Australians, the Kangaroo, Scots, the Bagpipes, and Welsh, the Wellingtons. Now, if you have to ask me why the Welsh are represented by Wellington boots, I'm afraid that in polite company I can't answer that question. However, it represents the crew.
You can tell us. You might be able to tell us then.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
I know. I think we guessed.
Okay, so the other markings up there, the name of the aeroplane leader, that represents the initial letter of the aircraft. the phonetic alphabet that was in use at the time actually wasn't Leader, it was Lima. Sorry? Lima.
London.
No, that's the current one.
London.
I'll go with that. Anyway, so they chose this name for their aeroplane. Leader, I guess because, you know, in front and everything like that. And also the other symbols up there, each one of those represents a bombing range over enemy territory. The yellow ones, the majority, represent a night raid over enemy territory. The red ones represent a bombing raid on Berlin. Now Berlin was particularly heavily defended, so it wasn't a very pleasant place to go to, because A, it was a long way to get there, and also being heavily defended, it wasn't very nice to fly over. The ice cream cones, that represents raids on Italy. Ice cream, just one cornetto only there. So that's what all the symbols are. Now, as I was saying, it's flown by 7 men who fly and operate the aircraft. First member of the crew is the bomber. He's in the goldfish pole at the front. He lies on his tummy in that position, but he's not there the whole time, because he's only there usually when the aircraft is approaching and over the target. Quite a number of bomb aimers after the war suffered particularly with stomach problems. And you can imagine why this is. You're laying flat, so you're tensing up all the time. So he's got another job. He operates the front gun turret. But he probably wouldn't do that all the time, because most attacks would take place from either the rear or from underneath the aircraft. So they didn't use that turret very much. So he would probably help out other members of the crew with their duties during the flight. Then when we come back to the cockpit, on this side of the cockpit is the pilot. Now these days it's always flown by 2 pilots. But during wartime operations it's just 1 pilot with 2 aircraft. He was assisted by the flight engineer who sat on the opposite side of the cockpit to him. He's got a big bank of instruments that all relate to the engines and the fuel and various other bits and pieces. He knows a lot about the aeroplane. So any problems with the aircraft, the flight engineer is the man who should be able to sort it out. He also has a little secondary duty to carry out for the pilot. Because these are such big and heavy aeroplanes, especially when they were fully laden with bombs and fuel, it takes a lot of strength to fly them. Not like modern aeroplanes, you get powered flying controls. These days it's all control pulleys, conrods, that sort of thing. So you need strength to fly the aeroplane. Now, at the particularly sensitive times of flight, like landing and taking off, the pilot wants to keep his hand on the control wheel, to keep the aeroplane under control. Normally the pilot operates the throttles, but during those critical stages of flight, he got the flight engineer to do that for him, just so he can keep the aeroplane under his control. Then behind, in the rear half of the cockpit, which you can see is covered in the front part of that is where the navigator sits. He sits at a little table and he faces out to this side of the aeroplane. And he's got all his navigator's paraphernalia. Not like you've got today, GPS, satellite navigation, TomTom, Garmin, all that sort of stuff. Now, he's got none of that. All he's got is his maps, slide rules, compass, pencils, ruler, brain. So he works out the way to get to the target, but much more important to the crew, he works out the way to get back home again. Behind him, just about level with that dome at the rear of the cockpit, is where the radio operator sits. Now he's probably the most fortunate man in the crew, because they built these aeroplanes to carry bombs. They did not pay a lot of attention to the comfort of the crew. But where the radio operator sat is where the one and only hot air heating duct came out. So he's nice and warm. Not only does it come out where he is, he controls it. So he can think, well, it's getting a bit warm here, turn it down a bit. All the others, so we'll go down and see the other members of the crew. behind the pilot's head. Elsewhere in the aircraft, all you've got between you and the outside world is just a thin piece of aluminium. So sitting up in that turret, that's all you've got all around you, is just aluminium. So you're very exposed. Very difficult place to get into. In order to get up into the turret, there are nice steps that you climb up to get into it. There's one step that pulls down to the side of the fuselage. You have to put your foot in that, and then you have to pull yourself up into the turret. And all you get to sit on is a piece of canvas webbing, which hooks up on one side of the turret. That's got a thin piece of cushioning, about so thick on it. So that wraps around your bum and hooks up on the other side. Now, you can't be pulling yourself up and wrapping yourself up in your seat, so you probably get somebody else to help you out into your seat. So once you get up in there, you're then going to be swinging around, and that could be anything up to 10 hours. So quite a nice long time to be stuck up there, flapping about in the breeze. 10 hours, it's a long time. Calls of nature might come into effect sometime during that. They've got a toilet, Elsan toilet, chemical toilet. About that high. It's like a round waist bin, which I suppose is what it is really. But the more time you spend sitting on there, the less time your eyes are outside the aeroplane. So you spend as little time on that as you possibly can. So it's always a custom, a lot of crews, it was a custom before they went off on a raid, to all gather around the tail wheel and have a little piddle on the tail, just to get rid of a little bit of weight, so that they won't have to spend too much time sat on it. So, nice place to live. Sit in the turret, you've got a seat, and that is on the floor. So you sit on the turret, you do it even more up, so you can get very cramped in there, especially as it gets extremely cold. Yeah? Especially in the later stages of war, what they did on a lot of the Lancasters was to take out the central panel of perspex in the turret. The reason they did that was because they got scratched and cracked, so if you're flying over fires and searchlight, the light gets confused across it, so you're not going to get a confused light. And you really need that view behind the airplane. So they took it out to give them a better view. However, taking that out, you're flying 18, 20,000 feet, it gets pretty cold. Yeah? So you're flying in temperature of down to 30, 40, minus 30 or 40 degrees centigrade. So, pretty uncomfortable. A lot of time when the crews got back to the raid, the rear gunner would have to be physically lifted out of the turret. It was so cold and so cramped sitting there for such a long time. They had electrically heated seats. They weren't that good. They didn't have thermostatic control on them, so you couldn't control how much heat there was. Sometimes if they were flying the maximum height of the Lancaster, around about 20,000 feet, the heat just filled up, and you wouldn't realise how much it had built up until your fur-lined flying boots would begin to smoke. So you know by then, it's going to be a bit warm inside. So you turn it down, or turn it off. Also, with movement, the elements in the suit break. So at that point, work, fried, didn't break. So not very nice. Now, being down this end of the aeroplane, unfortunately we're not a bit closer to it, you get much more impression of the size of the aeroplane. But that's quite misleading. If you watch Doctor Who, I refer to it as a TARDIS in reverse. Big on the outside, very small on the inside. When you first board the aircraft, all the hatch on the other side, you see the boarding steps there. Get in the aeroplane, you can stand up. But then, when you go up through the fuselage, the first thing you come to is where that mid upper gun position is. And that projects down into the fuselage, so you need to get yourself underneath it, or you've got to, with 2 squeeze your way around the side of it. Once you've passed it, you're then up to where the hanging open, that's 33 feet long, which is just under half the length of the aeroplane. And inside, it comes up to around about that sort of height. So you step on top of the Bombay in order to go up through the front of the airplane. Once you've stepped on top of it, unless you're a real shorty, you're not going to be able to stand up through the ceiling. Then when you get to where the wings join the fuselage, there are two large spars which pass right through the aeroplane, and rather than trying to come up to around about there. And also at that particular point, there's various equipment on the left-hand side, so we've got about half the fuselage which squeeze over that spar and up to the front of the airplane. And then when you get into the cockpit, hooray, you can stand up again. So those are the only two places you can stand up, in the cockpit or when you first got on board. Get down into the navigator's position, two ways you can do that. This hatch here, or right up under the extreme nose, there's a hatch underneath the aeroplane so you can go up through that. But if you come through this way, that's particularly difficult because it's very narrow and confined, quite twisty as well, in order to get down into the formation's position. So it's quite difficult. It's a very difficult aeroplane to do. Of all the Lancasters that were shot down during the war, 17% of their crew perished. So not really a good statistic. If you know that figure, you know that you're not really going to get much chance of getting that aeroplane. So they provide them with a number of places where they can get it. First place is that place underneath the bomb anger's position. So he's got a hatch underneath where he sits, with eyes, so he just takes that hatch out and he's probably going to be one of the very few that's going to get out, because it's a very difficult position to get down here, especially if the aircraft's out of control at all. There are various things that you can hook up your parachute and get snagged up, so they're going to hold you up in getting out of the aeroplane. So, bomb are probably the only ones there. Next one, there's a hatch in the roof of the cockpit. In order to get that out, you need to stand either on the pilot seat or the navigator's table. And then you need to be a bit contortionist to actually get out of it because it's offset from where you are. So, that easy to get out of it. Then there are another two hatches on top of the airplane. One, almost immediately behind the cockpit. Those sticky up tips up there, during the war they weren't there. So there's a hatch up there, just almost immediately behind the cockpit. There's another one almost immediately in front of the middle of the gun. But none of those top three positions, if you really want to come out of, unless you absolutely have to. They're there really if the aircraft makes a forced landing on the ground or ditches at sea. If you come out of there when the aircraft is in flight, then you'll get caught by the slipstream. That will be anything up to 280 miles an hour. So you get whipped down the fuselage and probably bang into the middle of the turret, maybe rendered unconscious, be unable to use it. Coming out there, you don't just jump up. If you do, then again the slipstream's going to catch you, wrap you around the tailplane, so you're going to have a lot of problems. The recommended way to do it is to actually roll yourself into the water. The last place you can enter the airplane is from the tailplane. All you have to do is turn the turret to 90 degrees, sliding doors at the back of the turret, parks those, nice and easy. Unfortunately, some bright spark made it a little bit difficult, because apart from the pilot, none of the crew actually wore their parachute. The pilot only wore his parachute as made for his company really, because there was no cushioning in the pilot's seat, so he wore a seat-type parachute, so he sat on that and used it as a cushion. All the other members of the crew, their parachutes are still on. When it comes to this poor man in the back here, there's not enough room in there for him and store his space for his parachute. So his parachute is stored on the hook outside the top. So if he has to abandon the aeroplane, he's got to open the doors, get to his parachute. Now, in order to get to it, you can't just turn around and walk out, because you can't just to the top. In order to get in and out of the turret, there's a couch, which you can put, so you lie yourself down on the ground, and you slide yourself in and out. So he eases himself back up the couch, retrieves his parachute, zips it on, slides back in, closes the doors, turns the turret, opens the doors, goes out. So it's not quite as easy as it first appears. So you can see why only 17% of the men escaped this when they were shot down. Now, at one stage in the war there was a bombing raid that was going on over Germany, and the aircraft were flying at 18,000 feet, and this particular Lancaster was set on fire after it was attacked by a German night fighter. And eventually the captain gave the order to the crew to abandon the aircraft. The rear gunner opened his turret to get to his parachute. He couldn't get to it because the fuselage of the aeroplane was engulfed in the flame. So he quickly shut the doors and sat there wondering what to do. Eventually, some sort of decision was made. The turret is powered by hydraulics. Hydraulic fluid caught fire, ran through into the turret, set fire to explode. So he's got two choices now. He stays there, dies painfully and slowly in the flames, or he jumps without the parachute and hopefully dies more quickly. This man, a man by the name of Nicholas Altamade, chose that second time. He jumped from the aeroplane without the parachute. He fell 18,000 feet. On the way down, he lost consciousness, so he was quite relaxed by the time he got down. Also, the aeroplane had been flying over the forest. So he fell through the forest canopy. It was also midwinter. Through the forest canopy into 18 inches. Rain down. When he came round, he saw just how fortunate he had been, because he was at 20 feet from the edge of the forest. So 20 feet another way, and he didn't have a His problems haven't ended yet, because the Germans find him, and being German, they start asking questions. What are you doing here? Jumping out of an aeroplane, shot down, fell down. Where's your parachute? Well, I didn't use that. Oh no, you're telling portals. The only explanation is that you're a spy, so we'll send you away to be shot. So they marched him off.